I feel that we nailed a lot of areas to what Among the Sleep turned out as. So, with like I mentioned before, the big and the fantastic.
I think the whole game has a a curve, a tension curve, and like level 3 has that.
In the initial design of this level, the forested house, there was an active gameplay mechanic that allowed the player to switch between the house and the forest. It's a mechanic that might have been a good fit if the whole game was based around it, but just for this level, we felt it.
Once you come into the big room, you notice there's a lot of lighting focused on the 3 places you can go. They're all blocked, but you see the clear kind of motive of a paint.
We were actually stuck on this puzzle mechanic for the longest time, and it was one of the longest and most drawn out discussions we had of probably of the entire game, as far as I can remember.
I didn't know much about shaders before I started working on Among the Sleep. I did like an assignment on it back in school, but just saying to yourself that, yeah, okay, we need somebody that learns more about shaders, so let's do this and just dive into it and start discovering this whole world of possibilities. And then you have teammates that join you and are as eager as you at learning new stuff, and suddenly you have, like, for example, in level 3, when you place a puzzle piece in the center.
Here we used to have also, like, we were struggling a lot, doing a lot of rotation stuff earlier. Like, you had to rotate the things you had in your hand to make use of them, and the puzzles used to be that you had to rotate the puzzle right, but it was kind of not intuitive, and so we dropped that. Now it's easy to place.
I didn't know much about shaders before I started working.
The paintings are made as a part of the narrative storytelling, and they depict a woman standing on a bridge and ending up falling into the water.
So here we are in what we call the left wing, which is sort of the first meeting with the proper forest. This is kind of where things turn.
I guess this is the first chapter with an actual physical presence.
And also in level 3, there were a lot of quests that we planned on doing, but just we didn't find a way to do it.
Right at this point, when you crawl to the log here, this is the first time you hear the monster. It's a little bit of a like a water splash, and once you come back here, there's actually not too many people who recognize this place, but you go back to sort of midways of the wing, and here we add some more sort of tension elements. Like, there's a bit more sound. There's a boat coming in slowly, which is just empty, and it will sink once it gets here. That's not a big thing, but it's this sound that rises in intensity kind of all the way up until you get back to the main hub area now. So here we had a little thing that we want to implement, that we kind of felt that the forest was sort of wet. There was a lot of feeling with sort of the monster who had drowned and was drinking, so having a kind of humid and wet sensation in the level was something we decided. So this is like a little encounter showing this kind of extinguishing of a fire through water. Yeah. sort to also kind of make it a bit less light and a bit less cozy. And if you look closely while going around here, you can actually see Haida, the monster's face, sticking up somewhere when you go down to the border there. Pokes her head up and looks at you. She's very nature creature, so we kind of try to show people that you would find her near water and forests, and like here it would feel a bit safer. It's not here's like the first puzzle piece, and it's kind of narrow, but it's toys here, and it has the feeling of a kid being here before, which is a remnant of like the sub.
So here's this airplane toy, and if you pick it up and move around, you'll actually see the propeller of the plane rotate while moving, as if it was actually flying. I think I spent about a day implementing that, which in retrospect was not the best use of time, I think. But it's a fun feature.
It is. Maybe even I should put some sounds to that. When this propeller moves, I could put a moving sound and or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. We should do that.
Yeah. I should also get a computer. And once you go back here, there's actually not too many people who recognize this place, but you go back to sort of midways of the wing, and here we add some more sort of tension elements, like there's a bit more sound, there's a boat coming in slowly, which is just empty, and it will sink once it gets here. That's not a big thing, but there's a sound that rises in intensity, kind of all the way up until you get back to the main hub area now.
This place feels... Let's not dwell here for too long.
Here we also have one of the more obvious hintings towards the theme of alcoholism, where the woman, if you notice the painting, drinks from the well and turns into some strange creature.
I really enjoy what we call the right wing. Here it starts out with... It's such a good transition between the house and the forest there. I think it starts out with... For these areas we wanted to make the players feel that they were playing as a child character, because that's one of the struggles we had with this level, that when you are out in the forest areas, it's much harder to get the feeling that you are actually playing a child compared to when being inside of a house. So in this right wing, since you have just been in the left wing, which is mainly forest and swampy areas, we made sure that you had to crawl underneath the bed and then crawl through the ventilation or whatever it is, and then immediately you have to use a stool or drag a...
First visual effect, the first time you actually see an actual AI monster. It's cool. See her through the window and she walks away further in. The road leads there to the well, and when you see the well next time, You know that she's out there somewhere.
One thing I can think of is in level 3, the woman that is.
Right here is actually a little bit of cool sound design. Is that once you're above the bed, there is the sound of dripping water on planks, but when you go beneath, you hear the sounds of water dripping on planks from the other side. So you just hear like the dull thuds of it instead of kind of the watery splashes.
I always enjoy the view of the well from this point, with the fireflies above. And
One example of this is the well that can be found in level 3. We had a pretty big discussion about this internally with almost everyone on the team regarding, is it realistic or not that the child is able to raise the bucket in the well in order to obtain the key and the puzzle piece. And for this certain situation, this specific situation, it just turned into be a case where gameplay trumps realism sometimes. We're not really making 100% realistic baby simulator, and it's also far out in the fantastical.
I think it's important to kind of know that when you're working on something creative, you'll always have lists and always have so much things you want to do before you finish, but I guess the important thing is prioritizing. Like, in my opinion, like the gates.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw the monster implemented in this area. That was this hard. So we wanted to make sure that the player had at least a couple of encounters here where they would have to bump into the monster in the swamp, and we wanted the player to have multiple choices for routes to take, but we encourage the player to go to certain places first, and then and I think this worked out pretty good.
I actually never knew that, but you can actually unhook the lamp. That's pretty cool. By the end of there's a lamp, at least by the end of the forest, which you can unhook. That's pretty cool. It's just kind of a bit more of how the game is about, you know, the interaction and the physical things. I have a sound here that once every 200 seconds, so there's like a little bit of knocking from one of the barrels. So it sounds like maybe something is inside of one. I have a sound here that once every 200 seconds or so, there's like a little bit of knocking from one of the barrels. So it sounds like maybe something is inside of one. I actually never knew that, but you can actually unlock the lamp. That's pretty cool. By the end of there's a lamp, at least by the end. I really hate this monster actually. Like I noticed that I get really tense when I know she's around and I don't quite know where she's coming from. So we did something right on her. She's creepy. And like the last bit of this level, I very rarely say once you get to the gate, we have like an actual bit of a chase sequence, but it's not something you really notice too much. Like you notice the sound start coming, and once you turn around, it just means that she's gonna be very close behind you, so I'm not gonna do that. Ah, fuck! I hate this part.
Martin just died.
So we have actually two chase sequences. That was the first sort of chase thing. I'm just gonna turn around now. And here is the next part, because now she's gonna... This is actually quite mean, because we implemented this for a test to show people at the GDC, and we made it impossible to escape her here. So this is where people could just get caught in this. Now we, like, of course in the game there is...
I really enjoy what we call the right wing. Here it starts out with, it's such a good transition between the house and the forest there. I think it starts out with the house and just the hallways. It's the building is damaged. You hear the creaking wood and the water is dripping in, and then you have this. And you see the monster outside, and you have to go outside, and suddenly you're in just the swamp area, and it's such a completely different setting, just being in the house and being in the forest near the water, but it has such a fantastic and smooth transition to it. I really liked that particular part.
When you go through again, you will get like the same sort of washing off, and it will be less tense when you go into the main area again. Rinse off, rinse off.
We were actually stuck on this puzzle mechanic for the longest time, and it was one of the longest and most drawn out discussions we had probably of the entire game, as far as I can remember. Where we first started out with statues instead of a puzzle piece, and there were things you were supposed to do with the statues. But then we had
was also a lot of fun to work on the hair. So making the characters was a lot of fun. Getting to see them walk around and scare people in Let's Play videos and stuff. It's very, very fun. Very cool to see the effect they can have on people in the right circumstances.
This actually is kind of the most skill-based places because you have to really, like, you gotta be ready to hide very quickly. She is around all the times, and if you're not quick, like, she will catch you. So it's actually one of the more hard places where I think a lot of people have died.
Next memory. It's your book. Listen.
Oh, come on. I'm thirsty, said the rabbit. The rabbit cried and cried. She cried so much that her tears filled the bottom of the well.
We're back. What was that? That thing? She seemed so sad and desperate.
Again, we see the theme of pipes and the like brass-colored pipes and all this, which was a part of the Teddy's machinery,
It's going
which
to be
we
so
mentioned
nice
earlier.
when we're through with all this.
And
we can play together all
we
the
kept it
time.
in the game because the story was changed, and there was iterations to the story so late in the development that this was already implemented,
Another
and
one down.
we just couldn't have found the time to
Listen,
to make it any
we're
different.
getting very close to her.
But it still works out, you know. That's a good. The,
Oh, she must
when
be
we
so
changed the story, we
afraid of you.
also realized that most of the game was actually kind of supporting that story anyway. So that was kind of a really like one of the reasons why we changed. We recognized that this wasn't a huge difference in what we have to produce and change.